Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today, where we'll discuss building partnerships with civil legal aid. My name is Chidi Umez. I am the project manager for the Criminal Records Project with the Council of State Governments Justice Center. The Council of State Governments Justice Center provides practical, nonpartisan, research-driven strategies and tools to increase public safety and strengthen communities. Before getting started, I'd like to briefly talk through a couple of housekeeping items about how the webinar is going to work. Anytime during this webinar, you can ask a question by typing it into the Q&A panel on the bottom right-hand portion of your screen. This includes both technical and content-related questions. We'll try to reply to technical questions in the chat as we go, but for content-related questions, we'll keep a running list and address them all at the end of the webinar. And we'll do our best to get through as many questions as possible. If you do encounter technical or audio problems during this webinar, please call WebEx technical support at 1-866-229-3239. That's 1-866-229-3239. Please understand that there are some technical issues we may not be able to resolve, and for this reason, we are recording the content portion of this webinar, and we'll post it on our website, cleanslateclearinghouse.org, and we should have that webinar posted online in a few weeks. Joining me on this webinar are Karen Lash from American University Justice Programs Office, Jeffrey Swilley from Prince George's County on Economic Development, and Zania Wilson from Maryland Legal Aid. I will begin the webinar and give some context to our discussion by discussing the impact and barriers created by a criminal record, talking about some policies that states are using to mitigate these barriers. Then I'll talk about a resource we maintain here at the Justice Center called the Clean Slate Clearinghouse. After me, you'll hear from Karen, who will give insight into the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, and the connection with civil legal aid. And after Karen, you'll hear from Jeffrey and Zania, who will provide an example of a partnership between an American Job Center and legal aid. So, like I said, I'll start by looking at some of the barriers, particularly to employment for people with a criminal record. The impact of a criminal record has broad implications for individuals and families' economic security, as well as for our national economy. For instance, a person with a criminal record is 50% less likely to receive a job offer than an applicant without a record. Along those same lines, a criminal record can affect the lives of families, with research showing that approximately 180,000 women are subject to a lifetime ban on public assistance because of their criminal records. When people with criminal records remain underemployed, the U.S. economy loses approximately $82 billion in annual gross domestic product. And this is of particular interest to businesses who are seeking ways to fill open positions with qualified candidates. We see this impact is greater for communities of color, with Black men being 6 times more likely to be incarcerated than white men, according to a BJF study in 2016. As a person moves through the criminal justice system, there are decision points and opportunities to determine whether a criminal record will attach, starting from the point of arrest through probation or parole. And incarceration is just one point at which a person acquires a criminal record. So given what we know about the many consequences of having contact with the criminal justice system, even something as simple as a non-conviction arrest may inhibit certain opportunities and access, particularly for people of color who are the most affected. People with criminal records are also often excluded from the workforce due to background checks conducted by prospective employers. With over 80% of employers conducting background checks on some or all job applicants, those with a criminal record are likely to experience frustration in their job search. Even individuals who have records that are over 20, 30 years old, which are not related to their desired field of work, may be or underemployed because of their employer's reliance on a background check, which, according to a 2013 NELP report, may include certain omissions and inaccuracies in the applicant's background. So along with the barriers to employment opportunities, other consequences are triggered by criminal conviction. These so-called collateral consequences are found in state and federal statutes and regulations, and they place restrictions on the ability of people with a criminal conviction to access employment, occupational licensing, housing, voting, education, and other opportunities. So even though a person's criminal history after some period of time may not predict their likelihood to commit another crime, certain collateral consequences may affect a person's ability to progress in their life, in some cases permanently. The National Inventory of Collateral Consequences of Conviction, or the NICCC, is a project that's operated by the Justice Center and supported by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, is a searchable database of the collateral consequences in all U.S. jurisdictions and in federal law, and it catalogs over 40,000 federal and state collateral consequences, of which over 31,000 are permanent restrictions. For those who wish to receive an occupational license, there are around 15,000 collateral consequences across the country that would affect their ability to obtain an occupational license in their field of choice. This information is also important for reentry and workforce professionals to know as they guide their clients through certain career fields that may have licensing restrictions for people with criminal records. So what can be done to reduce these barriers? States are exploring a few ways to address these consequences. A common strategy states are employing is to enact fair chance hiring or ban-the-box policies that provide guidance on the consideration of a criminal record in hiring decisions. These policies are designed to postpone consideration of criminal record information on job applications, primarily for public employers, but states are moving towards expanding these policies to private employers as well. With ban-the-box policies, employers may be prohibited from considering certain criminal record information in the application process, may only consider information in a person's criminal history that relates to the specific job, and these policies should provide applicants an opportunity to explain their criminal history information that is uncovered during the hiring process. Criminal record clearance policies have different effects on the consideration of a person's criminal record. And the term criminal record clearance is a general term to describe the process of removing a person's record from public view. States use different terms to describe this process, the most common terms being sealing and expungement as the ways in which an entry may be removed or cleared from a criminal history. For most states, the process of expungement generally means that records are destroyed, and for states that have sealing, this term generally means that records are not publicly available. But depending on the state, expunged or sealed records may be disclosed for licensing decisions, may be used for criminal justice purposes, and may also be inspected with a court order. So although it varies by state, record clearance policies may relieve a person from disclosing the existence of a criminal record when seeking employment opportunities, and an applicant doesn't have to disclose that they have a criminal record. So with the growth of record clearance legislation across the country and the efforts to reduce barriers for people with criminal records, the Justice Center, with support from the U.S. Department of Labor and Justice, created an online clearinghouse of record clearance legislation across the country. And that is the Clean Slate Clearinghouse. The Clean Slate Clearinghouse was created to support juvenile and adult record clearance across the country by providing up-to-date information on record clearance as well as contact information for legal service providers in all U.S. states and territories. The Clearinghouse provides tools and resources for legal service providers currently engaged in record clearance work or those who want to expand their criminal record clearance services. And it also provides information to compare record clearance policies across jurisdictions and to learn about best practices. But the site can also be used by reentry and workforce service providers to help people with criminal records determine their eligibility for record clearance, make decisions about career paths, and primarily connect to legal service providers in their state. The site can also reach indigent defense attorneys or pro bono attorneys who are interested in starting or expanding their record clearance practice, and also researchers or journalists who want to compare trends in record clearance legislation across the country. So this is the homepage of the Clearinghouse, and on the site, I just wanted to highlight some key features that can be most useful for different audiences. So on the homepage, we have a host of products geared towards expanding the field of record clearance. A podcast series we call For the Record is an opportunity for us to speak with those who are closest to the work, including people with criminal records, legal practitioners, reentry service providers, and business professionals. We also highlight record clearance work across the country through articles on state reform efforts and written interviews with experts. You can also learn about upcoming webinars and trainings on the homepage. This page is what we call the State Overview page, or the Learn About Your State page. On this page, users can see a summary of available adult and juvenile record clearance policies in their state. And this may be a little hard to see on the screen, but each bullet point is a summary of the type of criminal history information, whether it's felonies or misdemeanors, that is eligible for record clearance. So as reentry or workforce providers are providing services, they can use this page to counsel their clients on the available remedies to removing particular convictions in the state. This page also includes court forms and state-specific resources for people to learn more about the record clearance petition process in their state where it's applicable. For legal service providers and legal professionals, this page includes a tab on the left that directs them to a more detailed breakdown of the legal policies and statute. And we've also included links to the statutory language as it appears in each state legislative source. For those who need additional assistance in understanding these policies, we've included a Find a Lawyer tab on the left as well. Which brings you to this page, the Find a Lawyer page. Here we've listed the preferred mode of contact and service areas for legal service providers in each state who provide record clearance services at a low or no cost to clients. Given that record clearance is considered a matter of civil versus criminal recourse, many of these organizations listed also provide a range of civil legal services pertinent to reentry, including driver's license renewal, housing disputes, and so on. So for people who may not be eligible for record clearance in their state, this page can also help connect them to legal professionals who handle other civil legal matters and help service providers see potential legal partners in their state. We've also included Bar Association lawyer referral service information for those who may not qualify or do not have access to legal service providers in their area. So that's the Clean Slate Clearinghouse, and now I'll turn it over to Karen to talk about some funding opportunities for these partnerships.
Thank you, Chidi, and thank you to you and your team at the Clean Slate Clearinghouse for putting on this webinar. I'm delighted to join you for this discussion about what civil legal aid has to do with helping people get a job. I'm Karen Lash, practitioner in residence and director of the Justice and Government Project at American University, where I work with state policymakers and their partners to identify those government programs, policies, and initiatives that could be more effective and efficient when civil legal services are among the services provided. Until last year, I did the same work in the federal government from my perch at the U.S. Department of Justice Office for Access to Justice. So this is why there's a need for the project. First, there's this large body of literature that says most people don't know when the problem they're having may have a legal solution. They're more likely to attribute it to bad luck. I picked a bad boyfriend, not that I can get a restraining order and custody of my kids so I can leave, or I can't afford an apartment without mold or rodents, not think I need legal help to enforce my city's housing codes. So that's why if we want to ensure the best match of services to the problem, we have to raise awareness about when people need a legal intervention. Similarly, there's a large body of studies that show that investing in legal aid can often have economic benefits by preventing the cascade of problems that follow when that initial problem doesn't get fixed. Each prevented injury or loss of a home or new job in turn reduces government expenditures in responding to injuries or crime or homelessness, as well as more obvious losses to the individuals and families themselves. So we work to identify government policy goals and programs that can benefit from civil legal aid when there's some evidence base to back it up. So, for example, relevant to today, to address whether record clearing improves employment outcomes for people with records, law professors Jeffrey Selvin and Justin McCrary conducted a study of a random sample of several hundred clients who received civil legal aid from the Clean Slate Clinic at East Bay Community Law Center. They found that after legal interventions to clear a criminal record or reduce a felony to a misdemeanor, that average employment rates grew and average real earnings increased. They also found that people didn't seek legal help until they were pretty desperate, suggesting we need to do a better job on outreach to those who might be eligible. Findings from a recent University of Michigan study go further. They also found a significant increase in employment and average wages. They also found extremely low recidivism rates. And legal assistance can help with much more than expungement, as Chidi referred to. The lawyers and paralegals and their volunteers are helping with all of these interventions, which make it much easier to get and keep a job when that underlying problem gets cleared up. So to those listening who receive Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act formula funds, and since this is the federal government, it's better known by its acronym WIOA. So if your workforce development activities use WIOA funds, you know all about the new implementation rules. What you may not know is that the Department of Labor included language recognizing that legal aid is a necessary supportive service in workforce activities. And in the rules preamble, they explain with examples how legal aid can uniquely address certain employment barriers. And then they encourage integrating these services and also allow funds to be used for legal services when the other supportive services conditions are met. So I am very happy to put a spotlight on the one example I know of where a state amplified that new WIOA legal aid language by issuing a guidance memo to all local area administrators about using WIOA funds for legal aid as a supportive service for eligible participants. The memo goes on to urge partnerships with the state's local solicitors' offices to secure expungements. So I was curious, and I reached out to the current Director of Workforce Programs at the South Carolina Department of Employment and Workforce, whose staff ended up surveying the solicitors and learned that while it has produced some really good results, it's uneven around the state and largely limited to expungements and not addressing some of the other legal needs that interfere with someone getting a job. So that prompted her to invite a team from South Carolina Legal Services, a nonprofit legal aid program, to speak to the local area administrators to explore new ways to add civil legal services to workforce development, job training, activities, and organizations. So stay tuned to see what they come up with. We may need a part 2 to this webinar, but a big shout out to South Carolina in the interim. So in most communities, to embed legal aid into workforce development programs, the partners will need to find some funding. WIOA funds are one option. The rule left no doubt. It's an allowable use of funds. There are other federal block grants every state, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories receive that allow funding of legal services consistent with the block grant's goals. The first 3 bullets on this slide are block grants that could fund legal aid that helps remove barriers to employment. Anyone wanting more information on any of those can contact me. And as of April 4th, the Department of Labor released a funding opportunity announcement for $82 million in reentry projects grants. The solicitation says that grants are to enhance evidence-based adult and young adult reentry strategies through collaborations with the field to identify and respond to emerging and chronic reentry challenges. And it specifically requires legal services in the project design. It's an amazing opportunity to apply what we're talking about in this webinar. You can go to grants.gov and put in FOA ETA 1802, just like it appears on the slide. You put that in the opportunity number field, and you'll get to the solicitation. But you need to move quickly. The deadline is May 4th. Now, there are other public and private funding prospects, one of which was used to fund the partnership you're going to hear about next. And that all started at the highest level in the state when the Maryland Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation Secretary met with the executive director of the Maryland Legal Services Corporation, a grant-making organization for legal aid. They talked about the importance of skills training and other services provided by the state's American Job Centers, but agreed that they needed to help that large segment of their working population who are having a hard time because of their criminal records or because of debt and other problems that pose major barriers to getting and keeping a job and have possible legal solutions. Maryland Legal Services Corporation had recently received funds designated for community redevelopment, and the grantmaker opted to use some of those funds to test the concept. If we embed a legal aid attorney in an American Job Center, will it help more Marylanders get jobs? That meeting led to a partnership between Maryland Legal Aid and a Prince George's County American Job Center, and we are fortunate to have a dynamic duo here to tell us about it. Zania and Jeffrey, thank you for sharing your great work, and you're on.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And on behalf of our director, Walter Simmons, we thank the Justice Center and Clean Slate Cleaning House for allowing us this opportunity to share our successes here in Prince George's County. I'm partnering with Patricia Blackwell. She's our Assistant Director of Job Seeker Services. She's actually going to go through the PowerPoint slide to cover the framework on how legal services was integrated into our local American Job Center. And on the back end, I will provide the historical framework and how we started from point A to Z to implementation of the programming. The picture you see there is Walter Simmons. I'm filling in for him. I'm the Deputy Director of the American Job Center here in Prince George's County. And now I turn the presentation over to Ms. Blackwell.
Hello, everyone. I'm Patricia Blackwell, and I'm the Assistant Director of Job Seeker Services here at the American Job Center in Largo. And I'll be talking about the framework for services offered to our reentry customers. So we have an American Job Center community network. And this community network consists of community-based organizations, government agencies, faith-based organizations, and to date, we have 31 different organizations who are part of this community network. It's meant to improve access to job seekers and bolster what we currently do at the American Job Center. The network serves over 30,000 job seekers and employers, and we have been serving with good results, exceeding employment and retention rates. We have been also working on aligning our priorities because, as you know, with the unemployment rate being low, with the persons we're serving have more severe barriers. So that's the bulk of the customers who we are currently serving. With that in view, we created the board, the Workforce Development Board, created a Disability and Severe Barriers Committee. And out of that, we started seeking alternative funding to serve these different customers who may have more needs. The community network actually increases our outreach to customers like this. And the reason for this particular approach is that there are 2,891 citizens, returning citizens, accessing basic services through the Prince George's County American Job Center during the performance year 14 to 16. 83% of these returning citizens are unemployed. Over 3,000 intensive services provided to returning citizens annually. So the way we work with these numbers is we have a job club, a job finding club. We provide bonding assistance, ex-offender specific job search assistance, and job search that is specific to career readiness services that's specific to the reentry population. And we found a great need for this because when we have had job fairs for specialized populations, the largest turnout compared to veterans, compared to bilingual, has always been the reentry population.
So the surprise, everyone, I know this is a little bit to the team. This is Walter Simmons and Jeffrey. I'm the executive director. I thought I wasn't going to be able to make the webinar, but I was able to join. But the next slide talks about putting the pieces together. How did we get to this level? After the Freddie Gray trial and murder and everything that happened in Baltimore, the state of Maryland decided that they needed to address services in communities where there's large portions of people who have a criminal record or that are just as involved. So they created a program called One Baltimore for Jobs, which is based out of Baltimore City. It's a state-funded program to address their needs. So being in Prince George's County, you know, I was a little alarmed understanding the true demographics and specifics of what was happening in our county. We are the second most populous county in the state of Maryland, following Montgomery County, but we also have the #1 raw number of unemployed individuals in the state of Maryland routinely. People would say, well, you just said that you're the second most populous county, so that aligns. No, it doesn't. Montgomery County has more people than Prince George County, is ranked #9 or #10 on the list of unemployed people, but our county is #1 because we experience more disadvantaged, we have more disadvantaged populations and people who are more economically disadvantaged. So I continually started pressing advocating on behalf of my county and our disadvantaged populations, including returning citizens, on how could we receive a One Baltimore Jobs? How do we get access to these free legal services? Eventually, people got sick and tired of me putting my hand up and asking questions at every state and governor's meeting, and they told me that they traditionally didn't put these. They provided funding for these free legal services, but traditionally they weren't funded in an American Job Center setting, so they didn't understand what was the need. And everybody on this call obviously understands that there is a definite need for providing legal services to disadvantaged populations who are economically disadvantaged, and a lot of times high poverty, you normally associate high poverty with high crime areas. So we were kind of making sure that our elected officials and our state leadership understood that need. So what we decided to do is really, we asked enough questions and put enough hands up that they said, we don't give the money directly to local areas, but we give it to a funding source. This funding source then in return funds pro bono legal services. So the Maryland Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation matched us up with the Maryland General Assembly, the Governor's Board, and then connected us with the Maryland Legal Services Corporation. From that point, again, we kept getting questions on why is it needed in a job center. We don't understand. This is not our specific model. Do you have the traffic flow? We see, as Patricia stated, over 30,000 job seekers. So what we invited the Maryland Legal Services Corporation to come see us on a Tuesday and see the traffic flow. The day they showed up, they really saw a front line. They heard about the services that were needed. They saw the people, and they were in a lobby that was jam-packed with continuously amount of people coming through the door. We were able to show them the people that have returning citizens. Again, we serve over 1,000 returning citizens per year. They heard about the issues and the disparities, some of the discrimination in housing and in employment. And by the end of their visit, they said, you know, if you can find a organization that provides pro bono legal services, we really would be interested in funding a Maryland collaborative at a job center. Coincidentally, I had already been talking with Maryland Legal Aid and telling them that what I was proposing, determined to see what they were interested in. Of course, Gina Polly and Zania and that team were really excited about what we were proposing, but again, they asked about funding. The tour and the conversations I had with the state and Maryland Legal Services Corporation secured that issue. So I was happy to eventually go back to Gina Polly and that team and said, hey, there's some funding that's going to be made available. It's going to be for Prince George's County and some other areas. I think it'll be a good opportunity. And within 6 months of talking about mission, vision, service strategies, and goals, I was happy to hear from Maryland Legal Aid that they received funding to provide legal services at the Prince George's County American Job Center. We were introduced to Ms. Zania Wilson, who's on our call today, and we were able to then unite our reentry services. We have a reentry coordinator and a reentry career consultant with the attorney, Ms. Zania Wilson, and what we've done since then is really incorporate them into what we do. So what we've learned through this practice is that co-location is key, right? But co-location isn't integration. So we did partner training, which is a cross-training, so that everybody understands what each other do. We understand the referrals, the intake, the application. We understand each other's performance metrics and our end goals. We understand each other's outreach strategies. And then we started integrating Maryland Legal Aid with all of our community partners so they knew. If you look to the bottom under the breaking news flyer, we promoted Maryland Legal Aid like they were one. They are a part of us. They're part of our family. So we did a breaking news flyer to all our partners. And then we let the job seekers know that now we can provide increased and holistic approach to job seeker services that are now included legal services. We then began to identify how we could partner Maryland Legal Aid services with our services and now do a joint outreach. But we still have our obstacles. We're still trying to determine long-term funding. We still are working on common data entry. How do we really connect the dots of understanding what continuing services leads to a returning citizen have the most optimum outcome and successfully return into the community? We're working on a universal intake, a universal referral, so that people who have this trauma aren't having to continuously tell their story. And then, as I mentioned, just really connecting the services to develop a continuum. I'm happy to say, if we go to the next slide, that we have seen success in some of our services. Total enrollments that we've seen that we're looking at is beforehand was 196 total enrollments in our job-specific services. 186 enrollment in career services, 153 in training services. We've had 158 completers. We've had 90 people get their credentials, which is a 59% success rate. 37% of our people are getting jobs at exit with an hourly wage of $16.57, which is $5 more than minimum wage. But what we look to do over the next few years is look at those who have been duly connected with Maryland Legal Aid as well as our services to see what is the difference. We've had some initial success, but when we really truly integrate, we hope to see all these numbers increase to move the system forward and have a model for returning citizens and service providers in local jurisdictions who have high concentrations of people with criminal backgrounds. That is the conclusion of our presentation on this side. So I guess we'll hand it over to Ms. Dania Wilson.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting Maryland Legal Aid to be on this call. My name is Dania Wilson. I am the staff attorney with Maryland Legal Aid and the One Maryland for Jobs project, which we will refer to as One M4J. So Maryland Legal Aid, we're a nonprofit civil law firm with offices throughout Maryland. I'm actually based in the Prince George's County office in Largo, Landover, which is not very far from the American Job Center. So I'm back and forth between the two offices. We provide free legal services and representation to low-income individuals that qualify for our services. You can find more information about Maryland Legal Aid at our website, which is listed on the screen. This is an overview of the practice areas that we handle at Maryland Legal Aid. It's not exhaustive at all. So as I mentioned, you can check our website for more information on our practice areas under Civil Legal Services. Walter gave a great background of the One Maryland for Jobs project and how it started. And as he said, the One M4J grant is an extension of the One B4J or One Baltimore for Jobs grant that originated in Baltimore. So to not be repetitive, I won't go over this slide too much, but the program was extended throughout Maryland and renamed the One Maryland for Jobs program. And Legal Aid has a staff attorney here in Prince George's County, where I am based, and also an attorney in Western Maryland in Allegheny County. These are the main focus areas for the One M4J grant. We've identified these practice areas as areas where there may be some barriers to employment, bankruptcy, child support and custody, criminal record expungement, debt collection, government benefits, housing, landlord-tenant, veterans benefits, and wage claims. If someone comes in with another civil legal issue, we can address that issue as well, whether it's a case that one of our staff attorneys in our local metropolitan office can handle, or we may be able to refer it to another legal services corporation or attorney referral service. Okay, so One M4J at the Prince George's County American Job Center. This is a very unique partnership, and it allows Maryland Legal Aid to provide legal services in a setting that's comfortable and familiar for job seekers. I have an office in the Job Center, and my work is supported by American Job Center staff and Maryland Legal Aid staff. The clients that are seeking employment placement services only need to go to one location, and they can find comprehensive services that include legal help that gets them closer not only to achieving employment, but meaningful employment, because they're eligible for better jobs with a record that's been cleared or other legal issues that have been resolved. So in addition to individuals coming to Legal Aid with a specific legal issue that they've identified, at Legal Aid we have a legal wellness checkup. So with this checkup, we're able to assess other legal issues. So for example, I had a client that came in for expungement, and he revealed that his recovery house was ridden with bed bugs. He didn't think that was a legal issue, but it definitely was. And I was able to do an intake and refer him to a law firm here in Maryland that accepted his case and is currently representing him on that matter. The resources at the American Job Center and the commitments that the job seekers have to finding employment makes my job really easy here, because I'm dealing with motivated clients that are being assisted by a community of experts that produces excellent job candidates, and the legal help is just like the icing on the cake. Many of my referrals come directly from reentry coordinators and career consultants that I work directly across. I have office space in the same area. So I've collaborated with the reentry coordinator here to present Know Your Rights presentations at Job Club, which is on Mondays, and I've also accompanied him to the Prince George's County Detention Center to do a presentation for individuals who will be released soon and who are looking to rejoin the workforce so they can know about the services, the legal services that we are able to provide once they are released. There's a ton of other partners at the American Job Center. So one of them is Dollar. They also refer clients to me that are enrolled in their workshops, so I get clients through them as well. I also have the unique opportunity to attend events that are hosted by the American Job Center, such as job fairs and other events that were hosted during Reentry Month that's just passed. This creates direct access to Prince George's County residents, any legal aid, and I believe that this is something that could only be achieved through this type of partnership where I have that access to be here on site at all times. The One M4J American Job Center partnership has also made it easier for legal aid to facilitate a partnership with the local child support agency and Prince George's County. Through that partnership, we're able to assist non-custodial job-seeking parents with lifting suspensions from their driver's license. And the Prince George's County Office of Child Support Enforcement is willing to work with us to do that because we're working out of this workforce center, and this is for job-related matters so that those individuals can have a driver's license. We have a lot of events here. So other events include expungement clinics, which are run very smoothly by American Job Center staff here. They handle the RSVPs. We've had hundreds of RSVPs for events. They organize the events, and Maryland Legal Aid staff and paralegal will staff those events. Other than that, I also do a monthly expungement clinic at the Prince George's County District Court Self-Help Center, and we have a lawyer in the library program at the local library branch here in Oxon Hill that's staffed by our local office as well as the Community Lawyering Initiative in Baltimore. And last but not least, walk-ins and telephone intake. So here we have a chart which is just a breakdown of the practice areas that I see the most while I'm here in this office. Expungement is #1, and that's followed by debt collection, bankruptcy, and child support. So the next few slides will just be an overview of some of the practice areas and how they relate to employment and what I see here at the American Job Center. So first and foremost, expungement is one of the main drivers of the success of the Legal Aid American Job Center Largo partnership. This was pretty much how our partnership started. We held some quarterly expungement clinics here at the Job Center before the One M4J grant was approved. So with expungement, many people are unaware that their arrest, citations, and other law enforcement encounters are reported in background investigations, even though those charges did not result in a conviction. So although we do have some job seekers that come here specifically for expungement, there are some people who come here not thinking that they need their record expunged, but a career consultant can bring this to their attention when they're reviewing what would make them a good job candidate, and they may refer that person to me. So in Maryland, the expungement laws have made significant changes in the last few years. So some things that may not have been eligible in the past are eligible now. But unfortunately, a lot of job seekers specifically they may be relying on information that they have gotten years ago. For example, many job seekers believe that employers only look back 7 years during a background screening, so they think that the older charges on their record don't matter. However, those records do matter, and many of those older charges are now eligible under the new Maryland laws. So although I have a number of 575 on here for the number of petitions filed since September, since then that number has increased to 841. Within the last month, an additional 266 petitions have been filed. And this number is just the number of petitions that I myself have filed on my own. So you can see that the need is great. This doesn't include the staff attorneys at the Maryland Legal Aid Office who have also pitched in, and the work that's being done out of our Prince George's County Legal Aid Office. So debt collection, bankruptcy, and employment. So besides expungement, I get many questions about bankruptcy and debt collection. When someone loses their job and they fall behind on their financial obligations, they want to know what type of legal recourse they have. A lot of people may have heard about bankruptcy. They may not know the difference between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13, or they don't know what rights they have when it comes to dealing with creditors. So I'm able to meet with the client, and I can identify when bankruptcy may or may not be a good option and present other tools under the law that may be good options depending on that person's situation. So recently I have helped some clients file Chapter 7, one specifically for a client to stop a wage garnishment. I also share information to clients about their rights pertaining to debt collection and how to deal with creditors. Sometimes the solution can be as simple as helping a client pull their credit report, understanding the information that's on there, and helping them with disputes. So child support, if someone's driver's license can be suspended for non-payment of child support, they can also lose a professional license or a passport. This is important to us because a lot of the individuals that come to the American Job Center, sometimes they may come in for a type of employment that they need a driver's license for, a CDL license or something of that sort. So it makes it very difficult for that person to find a job that requires a driver's license. So through a partnership with the Prince George's County Child Support Enforcement, which I mentioned earlier, Maryland Legal Aid is able to assist clients with the reinstatement of their driver's license on a case-by-case basis. This partnership varies depending on the local child support office. So this is a very specific partnership with the Prince George's County Child Support. I can't speak for other offices throughout the state. So this partnership has allowed me to meet clients on site at the child support office and collaborate with case managers and front counter staff to determine a client's eligibility for lifting a suspension for a driver's license. Before this partnership, it was very hard to get through on the 1-800 number or to talk to a case manager, but this has made the process very easy and beneficial to our clients. We are planning an expungement clinic with the Office of Child Support during the upcoming Child Support Awareness Month, and we'll also have participation from the American Job Center. So not only will we be providing expungement, case managers will be on site to provide child support information, and American Job Center staff will be on site to help these non-custodial parents find jobs or training services so that they can become current on their payments. The partnership with the American Job Center and the M4J grant made this collaboration with child support possible because child support enforcement also supports helping non-custodial parents get back to work so that they can fill their child support obligations. So wage claims and employment, that's another area that I help people with a lot here at the American Job Center. Newly employed job seekers are usually in the American Job Center for dollar-related matters and receive information about the M4J project through the dollar staff. Through this grant and those referrals, I've represented clients for unemployment appeals and provided legal service on other unemployment matters. I've also helped the client recover unpaid wages from a previous employer. And besides that, I get a lot of questions about employment discrimination matters, and I'm able to refer those cases to organizations that can help people with those matters. Oh, okay. So I went over a few of the practice areas and the things that we do here at the American Job Center. It's not exhaustive at all, and it's by no means what people could do many things outside of the box that are related to that. I think there's so many things that can be done in a partnership with legal services and workforce services. Thank you. I think we're ready for the Q&A.
All right. Yes, thank you, everyone, Karen, Jeffrey, and Zania, for your presentations. And we'll just invite folks now, like I said, to ask a question in your Q&A box on the bottom right, and let us know what questions you have for the presenters. But I can start off and kick off our first question. I'll start with you. Sorry, I think Walter, if you're back, or Jeffrey, whoever wants to answer, to kind of describe to the attendees, what's the first step in thinking about a partnership with your local civil legal aid organization? And I'll start with Walter or Jeffrey, and then I'll kick it to Zania to also give input on that. From the civil legal aid side, what would be the first step for folks in trying to form a partnership?
This is Walter. You know, this is the second time I partner with a pro bono legal services organization. Each time that I've said is to, one, understand the services provided by that local nonprofit organization, legal services, understand who their target population is, eligibility. That's big on any partnership for us. And then we allow, from our perspective, we want to see, do they align with who we serve, our eligibility, and what our end goal is. When I reached out to Maryland Legal Aid, I did a little research, and I felt like who they were serving matched up with ours. They had to be like, one thing I always look at is like, we require to be a legal, you have to be a legal resident authorized to work. That's one thing that you have to have commonly for them as well. They were centrally located in Prince George County. They had a priority population of Prince George County residents. So those are things that we started looking at to see if the common demographics were the same. Once we identified that, we had to really look at the mission and vision. You know, what is their goal? I met with their leadership. You know, what do they see out of their future? Where do they want to be? And it just so happened to align with where we wanted to, and we realized that the only thing that was coming between this partnership was funding. And that's why I go back to where I had already hopped on the train on the mission to get funding. But because our target populations, our goals, and our mission and visions aligned, it was an easy partnership. So those are the key things that I would say in any partnership that you need to come, you know, outline prior to even your first conversation.
This is Zania. I would say that this partnership works because at Legal Aid, we were already doing familiar work. Prior to joining the American Job Center as the one M4J attorney, I was in the Community Lawyering Initiative in Baltimore, and in that project, we traveled statewide in Maryland to do the programs like Lawyer in the Library. We went to churches, libraries, or partnered with community organizations to deliver brief legal services and expungement. So legal aid already has community-based projects and recognized the need for legal services that are outside of the legal office. So an American Job Center is just a great fit for that type of those type of services to be delivered.
Great, thank you guys. Thank you to Walter and Zania. Our next question, I believe this is for Karen. It says, is the FOA ETA 18 grant, is it a new grant or continuation of a current grant? And if it is a continuation or an extension, is there an easily accessible list of current recipients? It would be helpful to know how the current grantees are addressing legal service needs. For Karen.
Yeah, good questions. My understanding is that this is the second year that the Department of Labor has offered this reentry projects grant opportunity. And as I read it yesterday, I don't believe, I think it's just an open grant, that those who, it's not limited to continuation grants, in other words, those who got the funding last year. I think this is just a new open solicitation. And the Department of Labor usually does post grantees from particular grants that they award. I wish I could tell you the URL, but I can't. There is actually, Chidi, on the National Reentry Resource Center website, there's a map that does show where federal grants related to the reentry population have been awarded and identify the source of the federal funds. That may be a useful URL to send to folks who have participated in the webinar. That may be the quickest route.
That's a good idea, Karen, and we can do that because we also have information on other funding resources from Department of Labor and Department of Justice as well.
Yeah. What I didn't say was about the reentry project solicitation is that it's authorized by both WIOA and another law called the Second Chance Act. And when the Department of Labor and the Department of Justice, who both administer grant funds from the Second Chance Act, almost all of the grants that were authorized and appropriated under Second Chance do allow for legal services also. Obviously, you have to read carefully the grant solicitation for every twist and turn about what's allowable, but generally speaking, over the last 5 or 6 years, Second Chance Act grants in both agencies allow for legal services.
Great, thanks, Karen. And our other question was, how can profit organizations be involved with this process? But I believe, as Karen just mentioned, when we're talking about these partnerships, we are primarily talking about non-for-profit organizations partnering with civil legal aid. But as Karen mentioned, each solicitation and each funding opportunity and funding stream will have their own regulations as to which type of entities can apply or would be eligible under those funding resources. So it would just be looking at the specifications and the requirements for each one. Okay, and it looks like, well, there are no more questions. It looks like we've answered all the questions that people have so far. But as you can see on the screen, we do have the email address for the Clean Slate Clearinghouse, so you can ask questions, any questions that you have through there, and all the participants' information, Karen, Walter, and Zania, is also on this slide here. And we encourage everyone to sign up for to receive information through our newsletter and other announcements through the Clean Slate Clearinghouse. And we will send out the information for the National Reentry Resource Center, which, like I said, has other information on funding announcements, some of the opportunities that Karen has mentioned that will be available on that site as well. And so I just want to thank everyone again for joining the webinar today. I also want to thank Karen, Jeffrey, Walter, and Zania. Like I said, for additional questions, please feel free to email the Clean Slate Clearinghouse or the presenters directly. And this PowerPoint presentation, it has been recorded and it will be posted on the Clean Slate Clearinghouse for you to share and for you to download more of the information that was presented today. And with that...
Chidi, can I just make one last offer? This is Karen.
Sure.
And that is for any of the workforce development professionals that are listening in, if you want a warm handoff or connection to your local legal aid programs, I think between the Clean Slate Clearinghouse and my project, And I work a lot with an organization called the National Legal Aid and Defender Association, and together we often are making those introductions and warm handoffs, so we're happy to do that in this instance as well. We'd be excited to.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen, for that. So Karen is definitely an additional resource in that regard. And with that, it is 3 o'clock, and we will end the webinar. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.